Hi guys, welcome to the first development diary video, part of the Arts Development Service content that we aim to produce monthly. Within this sort of 15 to 20 minute video, we want to show what we've been up to over the past month. This episode is an exception because we're covering everything that's happened before this point. But from now on, we're going to be focusing on just a month. We begin with the balcony photo shoot with dear Mamba, and this is one of the first EPK photos we were aiming to get, and it involved a balcony, a banner, and some stencils and some spray paint. The main message we were trying to show here was sort of a playful, kind of relatable side of Jesus, and we were really kind of going for this sort of warm, action-filled, very dynamic photo. Part of all of these photo shoots, we want to add sentences and messages to the photo, either to enhance the message or just to add another little detail or sort of hidden, aspect to a photo. And this is sort of where we write down or physically put down the message and make sure it's easily translatable into a vector-based software like Illustrator. Once we had the photo chosen, we went to the editing phase where we made it a bit more dynamic, played around with the contrast and sort of made it a bit more balanced and sort of more of a finished product. And this was done by Jesus, which he did an amazing job on it. And I think if you can step out of your comfort zone and learn a new skill, it will make the whole artistry process a lot easier. So after this photo shoot happened, we moved towards collaborations, and one of the collaborations was mainly focused on Mambastic, which is Jesus's hip-hop project. He was joined by Kat and Thomas. Instagram handles in the description if you want to check them out. And they were putting together a demo for one of the songs. I found Jesus partaking in this collaboration really enhanced his skills, and you saw him developing these sort of creative direction skills where he could get his message across and make sure everyone was on board with the idea, or everyone was going in the same direction. And I thought that was really, really good of him to get involved with that. So for the second photo, part of the EPK we were putting together for Jesus, we wanted to do a photo shoot in a forest with a sort of contrasting photo studio look. The way we did this was we put a white backdrop up onto a tree and clashed it with a sort of forest background. And this made a really, really interesting message, mainly, conveying that no matter how professional you get, you always stay rooted with something behind what you're doing. There's always the roots that are attached to your professional career. And we used a fairly vibrant chair to put in the center just to make sure there was a focal piece, basically. Once we used these aspects in all these different photos, we came to the editing phase where we composited a lot of little leaves and all the photos together to make this sort of amazing avalanche, or this amazing falling effect of loads of leaves on one side of the photo. I thought it turned out quite nicely, and we did some further processing of color and sort of textures. And finally, the third photo we did for the EPK was in a woodworking shop that kind of symbolized a creative environment where music would be created. And we placed two typewriters that symbolized the analog aspects of Jesus's music that can be seen in regional Mexican music. And we placed everything in this sort of workbench and made sure there was a good dynamic in lighting from the left to the right. When we got to the editing phase, we decided to carry on the theme of putting a message and some illustrations on this design. We made sure we used the symbolism of the quetzal and used it right in the center, coming out of the accordion to represent music or an expression from that one instrument. While we were doing all these photo shoots, we really wanted to carry on the branding process and make sure we had enough assets and drawings that could be applied to social media posts, press photos, or even videos. So this process was very physical. We drew lots on on paper and vectorized it like all the other things we've been doing, meaning we had a lot of control on the flowers we were using. I'd say the main flowers we were using in this whole process were sort of wildflowers and very exotic ones. Sometimes we were using ones that were native to Mexico, but we made sure it was vibrant and sort of very general so people could relate to these flowers in some way. Part of this branding process was to put together some music videos for the upcoming EP release, which would be next year. And what we went through was a shot list or an idea that would develop into a message or something like that. And we put it into a key list and made sure we listed every single point we needed to film. So this is Jesus really making sure his idea and his image was properly down on paper. When you start not communicating correctly with the people making your creative idea happen, it starts drifting away from what you want. And I think that's such a degrading thing for an artist to see their idea just turn to something else, and they don't feel comfortable with it. So we've just started working with Hampaat, and they are a duo that are heavily influenced by post-punk and the 80s movement. We've been recently focusing on a lot of the rehearsing of their upcoming EP and the 2 new singles. So we're working on the music right now and making sure everything is well rehearsed for both live performances and studio sessions. We've been doing this in both pirate and noisy rooms, as they were very easy to book and sort of allowed us to get on with what we had to do. Part of this process was Fabio sitting in, and he really helped with making sure they stayed refined and were, keeping in mind what the songs would sound like in the studio. And it meant that they didn't have to rehearse one version of the song, but they could just rehearse, the final version and make sure it was done in the studio properly. So the branding process behind Hampaat was focused very much on exploration here, because we're not only thinking in 2D aspects, we're thinking in 3D aspects as well. So creating this sculpture with lots of different scribbles and designs meant that we could find different angles and shadows, part of this logo or design or texture that we wanted to make. And I think coming back to that physical point I made earlier, it really helps to get this down on paper and make sure there's no technical mishaps or translation problems. So by putting it in a white backdrop and making sure there was some lights on it, we could find the shadows, and later on we processed the image and vectorized it. And then we went straight into Photoshop and started playing around with the duotone of some of the previous photos taken. We also made some textures and some patterns that could be used later for merchandise or even for covers. Here's some more footage of Hampaat rehearsing more, and this was sort of working on just the 2 new songs and making sure they were ready. I think this process of rehearsing regularly as much as we can really helped sort of accelerate the progress of them. So this was the first casual photo shoot session we had with Hampaat, and it was over a day period where we chose 3 different sections of the photo shoot, one being in the daytime, one being just when the sun's going down, and one at nighttime. And it means we can choose 3 outfits, and within one day we can have 3 different shots that would look great. And we focused on the West End area and Charlottenburg area of Berlin, which is in the west. And there is a lot of high class buildings and a lot of architecture around this area. So we felt that it would sort of work well with our creative vision for the photo shoot. We explored a lot around these areas and sort of played around with some angles and dynamics, and went under U-Bahn stations and some S-Bahn stations, and I found that they were sort of good for sort of playing around with different dynamics. Towards the end of the photo shoot session, we focused on neon lights and more of a futuristic look, and this can kind of be seen with this hotel or this building behind them. as a backdrop. So this was the first development diary video, and I hope you enjoyed it and got something out of this. I've been definitely enjoying this month, and it's been a pleasure to work with so many talented musicians and industry professionals, and I wouldn't be able to get such amazing results without them. So a massive thanks to everyone that's been helping out recently, and please tell us how you would like the format, if there's something that you want to see in particular, or you might want to have less of something or more of something else. Just leave a comment down below or send us a DM on Instagram. If you like this content, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell, and let us know what you think.